The path to the Temple of the Abyss was long and treacherous, winding through rocky crags and barren plains that stretched endlessly under the dim light of Mortis Vox's bioluminescence. The whispers grew louder with every step, coiling around Liliana's thoughts like tendrils of smoke. She could feel them pressing in, trying to break her concentration, but she steeled herself, focusing on the only thing that mattered, the task ahead. She was no longer just a weapon. She was the future of the Sith. The temple loomed closer, its jagged spires thrusting into the air like the fangs of some ancient beast. The architecture was strange, almost organic in its design, as if the building itself had grown from the planet's very soil. Every surface seemed to pulse with dark energy, the shadows thick and oppressive, swallowing everything in their wake. Darth Varakius walked beside her, his cloak trailing behind him like a shadow made manifest. His footsteps were silent, but Liliana's boots cracked faintly against the rocky ground, the sound amplified in the eerie silence that surrounded them. The temple's presence was overwhelming, its very structure sending a ripple of unease through her. It felt as though it had always been there, waiting for her, for someone like her.
You feel it, don't you?
Varakius's voice broke the silence, and Liliana didn't need to ask what he meant.
The pull of the dark side. Mortis Vox does not give its power freely, but it will offer it if you are worthy.
Liliana nodded, her gaze fixed on the temple ahead. She had felt it long before Varakius spoke, the subtle tug in her chest, the whisper of promises and power waiting for her to claim. But it wasn't just the dark side, it was something older, something primal, echoing through the stones of the temple itself. She could hear it, feel it, vibrating through the air. As they neared the entrance, a massive archway carved from black stone loomed before them. Strange glyphs adorned its surface, the script alien and ancient. It shimmered faintly in the dim light, as if alive, pulsing with energy. The gate itself was an ominous barrier, silent and imposing. It beckoned, yet warned. Liliana could sense its power, and for a moment doubt flickered through her mind. What if she wasn't strong enough? What if Mortis Vox sought to break her, as it had broken countless others? Before she could voice her concerns, Darth Varakius stepped forward, his hands raised in the air, his fingers tracing an invisible pattern in the air before the archway. The glyphs on the stone glowed brighter, as if recognizing his touch, and the heavy stone door slowly began to grind open, revealing the dark interior of the temple. Inside, the air was thick with the weight of centuries of darkness. Shadows clung to every surface, and the very air seemed to hum with latent power. The walls were lined with strange, towering statues, ancient Sith lords whose eyes gleamed with malevolent red light. Their faces were carved with cruel, unforgiving expressions, their hands raised as if in eternal command over the temple's dark domain. As Liliana stepped inside, the door closed behind them with a resounding thud, sealing them in the heart of the abyss. The floor beneath her feet was made of smooth black obsidian, and the corridor stretched deep into the temple, shrouded in complete darkness. She could feel the weight of history pressing on her, the blood of fallen Sith lords soaking into the very ground she walked upon. Varakius stopped in the center of the room, his figure casting a long shadow in the faint light. He turned toward her, his eyes gleaming with cold calculation.
This is where you must prove yourself. This temple is a crucible for those who seek power. It will test your mind, your body, and your spirit. You will face your deepest fears, and you will see the true nature of the dark side.
Liliana nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She could feel the eyes of the ancient Sith Lords watching her, their cold, judgmental gazes piercing through her like 1,000 invisible blades. But she wasn't afraid. She couldn't afford to be. Ahead, a set of massive double doors stood, their surfaces covered in the same alien glyphs as the archway outside. There was no visible lock, no apparent way to open them, but she could sense the pull of power beyond them, beckoning her forward.
Go. You are ready.
Liliana stepped forward, her footsteps echoing in the silence. The doors opened before her with a deep, resonating groan, revealing a vast chamber bathed in flickering red light. The walls were lined with the skulls of ancient Sith, their hollow eyes staring at her as if judging her every move. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, and atop it lay a dark crystal, an object of incredible power. The moment she set foot into the chamber, a wave of energy washed over her. The whispers from the outside world were gone, replaced by a cacophony of voices within her mind. Screams, laughter, cries for mercy, and beneath it all the unmistakable voice of Mortis Vox itself, calling to her, offering her everything she had ever desired.
Claim it. Take it, and all will be yours.
Liliana's heart raced, her hands trembling with the weight of the moment. She could feel the dark side flowing through her, surging through her veins, tempting her to reach out and take the crystal. Power beyond imagining lay just within her grasp, ready to consume her entirely if she allowed it. But she hesitated. The crystal was beautiful in its darkness, shimmering with an otherworldly glow, but something about it felt wrong. It was as though the crystal was not just an object, but a trap. It called to her, urging her to take it, to surrender to its allure. Yet the very thought of it made her feel small, insignificant, as if Mortis Vox itself would devour her soul the moment she gave in. She stepped closer to the pedestal, her breath shallow as she reached out with her senses. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening now, filling her mind with visions of her past, her failures, her deepest fears. She saw herself as a child, orphaned on Zirak Prime, her parents lost to the planet's dark energy. She saw herself standing before Darth Varakius, her master, learning the ways of the Sith, yet always in the shadow of something greater, something more powerful than she could ever hope to be.
No, I am not afraid. I am not weak.
Liliana clenched her fists, gathering her will, her resolve. The dark side may have been powerful, but she would not be its servant. She would claim it as her own. She would shape it into a weapon, a tool to destroy her enemies and rise above the rest. She reached for the crystal, but the moment her fingers brushed its surface, the ground beneath her feet cracked, and the whispers exploded into a deafening roar. The air around her shifted, warping and distorting, as if the very fabric of reality was tearing apart. The crystal pulsed with an unearthly energy, its dark light blinding, and Liliana felt her body jerk as if pulled by an invisible force. A terrible laughter filled the chamber, the voice of Mortis Vox itself echoing in her ears.
You are not ready, little one. You never will be.
The ground trembled beneath her feet, and Liliana was thrown backward, her body slamming into the cold stone floor. Pain shot through her, but she pushed it aside, her mind focused on one thing: survival. As she scrambled to her feet, she saw the shadowy figures of the Sith Lords standing at the edge of the room, their eyes gleaming with malice. The whispers grew louder, their voices rising in a crescendo of torment, urging her to fall, to succumb to the dark side. But Liliana refused. She would not let Mortis Vox claim her. The temple was testing her, the dark side was testing her, and she would prove herself worthy. She rose to her feet, her eyes burning with fierce determination. She would not let the dark side break her, not here, not now. She was ready for whatever came next. Liliana's breath came in ragged gasps as the dark energy of the temple swirled around her, pressing in like a suffocating storm. The laughter of Mortis Vox echoed through the chamber, its eerie resonance vibrating in her chest, mocking her. Yet despite the overwhelming presence of darkness, there was something else, something deeper that stirred within her, a pulse, a force. Her connection to the dark side had grown stronger, more distinct. It was no longer a foreign power, it was a part of her. The ancient Sith Lords, their ghostly forms lingering in the shadows, watched her silently. Their cold, judgmental eyes pierced her with unspoken expectations. But Liliana was no longer afraid. She had passed the first test, the trial of her mind, the temptation to fall into the clutches of Mortis Vox. Now the real challenge began. The laughter of the temple faded as the air shifted again. The temperature dropped sharply and the ground trembled beneath her feet. The walls of the chamber cracked open, revealing a swirling vortex of red and black energy. From the abyss, dark tendrils reached toward her, thick as vines, curling like serpents eager to ensnare her.
Face your past, Liliana.
Came the voice of Darth Veracius, though he was nowhere to be seen. His voice was cold yet oddly calm, as if speaking from the distance of a dream.
Only when you conquer your history will you be ready to claim your future.
Liliana's eyes narrowed. She had no intention of letting the temple control her. Steeling herself, she stretched out her hand, summoning the dark side to shield her. The tendrils recoiled at her command, but a dozen more sprouted from the ground, coiling around her, each one a reflection of her deepest fears, her past failures. The first tendril reached her, and she saw a vision, a child no older than 5, standing in the wreckage of Zirak Prime's devastated landscape. The orphaned child had no family, no hope, only the remnants of her shattered world. Liliana recoiled inwardly, but she refused to show weakness. The vision of her younger self, lost, abandoned, was merely an illusion.
You are nothing. You were nothing before the Sith found you, and when they cast you aside, you will be nothing again.
The words struck her deep. For a moment, doubt flickered like a dying ember in her mind, but Liliana's will was stronger than any illusion. Her fists clenched, and with a surge of the dark side, she lashed out, sending a burst of energy that shattered the vision. The tendril writhing before her burned away, vanishing into ash.
Is that all?
Another tendril surged toward her, this time a towering figure of Darth Veracius. His features were obscured in shadow, but his presence was unmistakable, powerful, oppressive, and cold. His red eyes gleamed with contempt, his voice like ice scraping against stone.
You think you can surpass me? You are nothing but a tool, a puppet of the Sith, bound by their whims. Your potential is meaningless without their guidance. You will always be beneath me.
The vision of Veracius loomed over her, his mockery weighing down on her chest. The sense of inferiority, of being controlled, was suffocating, but Liliana clenched her jaw, her eyes burning with resolve. She would not be defined by him or by anyone, not now, not ever. With a scream of fury, she summoned the Force, her twin lightsabers flashing to life in her hands. Each weapon crackled with a fierce red energy, their ordinary blades burning brightly in the dim chamber. Their crimson glow was an unmistakable symbol of her growing power.
You are no longer my master.
The confidence in her voice matching the strength in her strikes. The image of Veracius dissolved into smoke, vanishing into nothingness. The temple trembled again, but Liliana remained resolute. The trials of the temple were not meant to break her. They were tests to strengthen her, to force her to confront the parts of herself she had long buried. As the last of the tendrils fell, The chamber around her began to shift, changing again. The walls collapsed in on themselves, revealing a vast open space, a dark void stretching infinitely in every direction. It was a place of nothingness, a space where time seemed irrelevant and the boundaries of reality itself warped and bent. At the center of the void stood a tall, shadowy figure. It was her, but not the Liliana she knew. This version was twisted, darkened by every choice she had ever made. Her eyes glowed with the same fierce red light as her lightsabers, her face a mask of cruelty and anger. She was a reflection of the darkness that lived within her, a manifestation of every regret, every ounce of ambition she had ever nurtured. The vision of herself stepped forward, its voice cold and mocking.
You seek power, Liliana? You think you can control the dark side? You are nothing more than a reflection, a shadow of the true power that lies within you. You are weak, afraid to embrace the full extent of your power. You have always been afraid of yourself.
The words stung, but they did not break her. This vision, this twisted version of herself was a lie, a fragment of her darkest fears. She knew now that her true strength lay not in the power she sought to claim, but in her ability to shape it to her will. She was not a slave to the dark side, she was its master.
You are wrong. I am not afraid of myself, and I will never be in your shadow.
With a final, determined step forward, she raised her hand, summoning the full force of the dark side. The void around her trembled, the space bending and warping in response to her will. She channeled her fear, her anger, her desire for vengeance, and unleashed them in a devastating wave of energy that shattered the vision of herself. The room grew still. The trial was not over. But Liliana knew now that she had passed. She had faced her past, her doubts, and her fears, and she had overcome them all.
Good.
Came the voice of Darth Varakius echoing through the chamber.
You have proven your strength, Liliana. You are ready. The dark side will now bend to your will.
Liliana stood in the center of the chamber, her body humming with power. The temple, once oppressive and suffocating, now seemed like a quiet space, no longer a prison but a domain she had claimed for herself. The influence of Mortis Vox was undeniable now. She could feel it in her veins like a pulsing energy that resonated with her very soul. Her tattoos, once just markings of her journey, now began to glow, faint at first but growing stronger by the moment. The intricate dark patterns, especially the trident design across her forehead, pulsed with a dark red energy, a slow rhythm that matched the beat of her heart. The sensation was both alien and familiar, like a whisper from the depths of the dark side itself. The faint, eerie light from her tattoos made her seem even more dangerous, as if the ancient spirits of the Sith were merging with her own soul. The trial had forged her anew, and with Mortis Vox's dark influence, she knew she was closer to becoming the Sith she was destined to be. Her journey was far from over, but for the first time Liliana felt the weight of the dark side not as a burden, but as a force that coursed through her veins, filling her with the certainty that she was destined for greatness. And when the time came, she would claim the title of Sith Lord, not as a servant of the dark side, but as its master. To be continued. Stay tuned for Chapter 2, Part 3. If you have enjoyed this video, smash the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching.